Escalade, Grand Wagoneer. The extended versions of these two SUVs are the longest, heaviest, and most luxurious SUVs on the planet. No other light-duty SUV in series production can top these two. Nothing. Not even the longest Lincoln Navigator. With tax and insurance and all the fees, you're looking at $250,000 right here, and they're not even fully loaded. That is inflation. Want to get the highest price you can for your car? Go on CarGurus, type a few details, and get a cash offer from dealers nationwide. They'll pick up your car and they'll pay you. In the United States, we go places. We have big families. Our families have big hungry bellies, and our love for road trips and hatred of minivans makes for these very American vehicles. The Grand Wagoneer L is new for 23. It adds a foot of length versus the regular Grand Wagoneer and 7 more inches to the wheelbase. The Escalade is the same for 23. That one is the standard length. I've already reviewed the Escalade ESV in another video. Check that one out. And it is a foot longer than a regular Escalade. So for the fairness of this video, all the specs you see are going to be for the Escalade ESV. But when you compare the ESV to the regular Escalade, they're basically the same weight, deliver the same performance, and the first and second rows got the same amount of room. So fair is fair. Let's talk engines. The Escalade has a tried and true V8, 6.2 liter, 420 horse, 460 pound-feet with a 10-speed automatic transmission. Optionally, there's a fuel-efficient diesel V6. That's very unique in the segment. Now the Grand Wagoneer L gets a brand new inline-6 with 2 turbos, 510 horsepower, and 500 pound-feet of torque, and 8-speed automatic. Despite those differences, check out the fuel economy numbers. Basically the same. Now towing, that's what these vehicles are really built to handle. The Escalade's about 8,000 pounds in its top form. The Jeep beats it by almost 1,500 pounds, so the Jeep wins that one. Cargo space. Now even though there's a lot more space in the Grand Wagoneer L versus the regular Grand Wagoneer, it still can't top the Escalade ESV. So pound for pound, inch for inch, this is the more space-efficient vehicle inside. Now we're talking about legroom and headroom. When we look at the third rows of these vehicles, they are livable. Those numbers basically equal for both vehicles. In the Jeep, there's a little bit more legroom in the second row, but in the Cadillac, there's more headroom by several inches in the first row. There's not much you can do with a school bus with chrome and 22-inch wheels. How else do you design a bus? If you're Jeep, you try making it darker. This is the Obsidian. It's the blacked out trim, the second most expensive Grand Wagoneer you can buy behind the Series 3. That's the top trim. And you can get the two-tone paint. Doesn't really look two-tone to me here or on camera. The pillars and the roof are actually black. This is actually a deep red in person, and in the sunlight, it does actually kind of sparkle. But for now, it looks like it's all black with these big 22-inch wheels. The front is all Jeep. That's very much an immediate look. The 7-slot grille, the thin lights. It looks very similar to the Grand Cherokee and other Jeep vehicles. Great family resemblance. From the side and the rear, I think Jeep lost some of their imagination. Where it helps though is that very, very big rear window. It's the size of a tour bus. The Escalade is more buttoned down, it's more debonair. Think of a nice gentleman's suit, that's what this vehicle is. This is the Sport Platinum, so it's got a black grille instead of those horizontal chrome lines, a nice honeycomb texture, 2-tone wheels. The whole vehicle front to back just looks trimmer. It looks more svelte. Even those 3-foot-high taillights have that nice thin look that give the vehicle kind of this light feeling. And it actually is lighter, because in ESV trim, this is 700 pounds less than that Jeep. Here's the reality. The Jeep is quicker by over a full second. According to Car and Driver, 0 to 60 is in under 5 seconds in this vehicle. Pretty exceptional. The numbers just don't lie. That 500 pound-feet of torque comes in right away, where the Escalade is still trying to pick up steam and figure out how it wants to get you up to speed. Jeep's already there. And at speed, it's just an altogether quieter vehicle. It is. To my ears, at similar highway speeds as the Escalade, there's more wind noise rushing through on the Cadillac. There just is. This is more damped. It's definitely a better luxury experience for highway cruising. Compared to the Pentastar V6 that Jeep has used for the last decade plus, this inline six is smoother. The power delivery is so much better. This was such a welcome and needed change, and it's really nice to see Jeep investing in a brand new gasoline engine. That's not something you're seeing from a lot of automakers now that are committed to battery electric EVs. But Jeep knows its customers are going to be needing engines and capability just like this, and it's so much better than what they've used for in the past. And I'd argue, yeah, it's better than the Hemi V8. I don't like saying that. It doesn't sound better, and it certainly doesn't sip that much less fuel, but this is totally the way forward. This is a good move. The 8-speed automatic, not particularly the most quick shifting. There's no paddle shifters at all. There's just a button here on the steering wheel that lets me change gears, but I have to, this is just, it doesn't really work that well. It's really meant more for towing, for deceleration, not much for sporty driving. There is a sport mode on here. It will lower the air suspension down to an aero mode to get you into a little bit more control. There's up to 10 inches of ground clearance in the top off-road mode. But let's be serious here. 22-inch street tires on a vehicle this long, you're not going to be taking it anywhere you would a Wrangler. Steering just doesn't have the feedback of the Cadillacs. But that said, the chassis is better, even without the MagneRide dampers. I'm just kind of thrilled with how exciting this is to drive for a vehicle that is a church bus. I don't know how else to describe this thing, but it does shrink in size. The chassis being based off the Ram 1500, that's a pickup truck that drives like a smaller car-based crossover. So Jeep is already starting with something very good, and they just built this on top of it. Now the steering's not quite as good as the Escalades, but the body control and surprisingly the grip are better. It drives like a smaller SUV. It's really strange. This is just not the experience I was expecting. When you slow down too, the pedal travel is just perfect. I have nothing bad to say about it. The Escalade's got that sound that everyone knows. It's just a big V8. But for as large as it is, it's not actually that quick. And it is 6,000 pounds of vehicle, right? But it's just not really responsive. It really sounds good though. And that's okay, because if you stand on this vehicle, yeah, you're gonna accelerate. Still about 6 seconds to 60 miles an hour, which is no slouch for a vehicle of this size. There is a sport driving mode, but it really doesn't do much to this vehicle, and the paddle shifters are completely inoperative unless you kick it to L and then they work. To me, if you're going to have paddle shifters accessible right here, you want to use them right away. And it really just helps with deceleration more than anything. The benefit of this large V8 is that it actually saves fuel, so the cylinder deactivation can shut off up to 6 of those 8 cylinders if it's not under load, if it's under certain conditions, and it'll vary the amount of cylinders that aren't firing. That's pretty good because when you compare it to that Grand Wagoneer, which has a much smaller engine, it's half the displacement. Well, the fuel economy is actually the same. 10 gears, 8 cylinders, and it's nice and loud. Then it comes down a bit. I think there's some more wind noise in here than that Jeep. Just doesn't feel quite as insulated. But the ride is really exceptional. And air suspension, which the Grand Wagoneer also has, the difference being is that there's MagneRide. That's the magnetorheological dampers that use special fluid, and it responds with electric current going through that fluid that changes the viscosity. General Motors was the first to do that in the 2000s on a Cadillac. And since then, Ferrari and a whole host of other manufacturers have used it. Now they've since licensed it to a Chinese supplier, so GM doesn't even own the rights to that anymore. Kind of sad, but the technology is just as good, if not better than ever. On a vehicle like this, that means that the wheel motions are just so controlled and the body just stays flat in any situation. So there's not much dive, there's not much pitch or roll. SUVs of old, they went all over the place. And the Escalade, whether you're pointed straight or you're around a turn, it just always feels like you're in control. That's a big deal. So as kind of slow as this feels, Cadillac has a solution. It's called the Escalade V, and there's almost 700 horsepower in a vehicle this size, and an exhaust that's probably about 10 times as loud. This Escalade doesn't have Super Cruise. That's because it was built in a time when there was part shortages. So if you have Escalades that are built after October of 2022, you can order it. There's a backlog though, so it's tough to get that feature. Watch my review of the ESV, did it last year. It's a whole in-depth look at that system. It's a hands-free highway driving system that's really the best out there. It is. So the $2,500 option on the Escalade, I think it's worth it. The Jeep has a similar semi-automated system, but it's several leagues below what Super Cruise offers. One real surprising feature of the Escalade, how well it steers. Cadillac does such a good job of steering feel and just the steering quickness. It feels natural, it feels well weighted, and every time I turn the wheel, those wheels are turning almost immediately. Get into a Ford Expedition or a lot of other large SUVs, the Nissan Armada. All of them just have that truck, that pickup truck feel, where you kind of seesaw at the wheel and nothing ever happens. But this Escalade has such really that dynamic feel of some of Cadillac's smaller sedans. And when you're on a back road with the Escalade, it's also not that scary. It's wide, you still gotta watch out. But you can place this big truck pretty precisely. And it doesn't matter if it's just you driving or there's 7 other people. Because again, that air suspension and the MagneRide really deliver that good control. Dare I say it, driving an Escalade on a back road, it's kind of fun. Great thing about the Cadillac Escalade, it actually can handle. Stability control does come in pretty early. It just intruded there. But you're not at risk of just immediately rolling over, which is a really nice, reassuring thing. Just like the brakes. I know that's actually going to stop this 6,000-pound behemoth. Covered in soft leather, glazed with the finest woods and metal, and massaging, heating, cooling every power toy imaginable. Custom user profiles that save almost every preference. The sharpest screens, gorgeous lighting. It's all over the top with a Cadillac or a Jeep, because it should be. There's a reason car stereos sound so good in big vehicles. This is the size of a living room. So you get speakers on the roof in either of these headrests, 36 in total, 28 amplifying channels, and an unheard of amount of watts. AKG is the manufacturer, they won't say, but it's incredible. Better than the Jeep. What's also unique, the front passenger can set their own volume independently from the rest of the cabin. And when you get the directions on, it'll play the left turn out the left speakers, or if you're making a right turn, out the right speakers. Kind of nice for directional audio. In the Escalade, you pay for screen real estate. OLED, 38 inches across. They're actually 3 separate screens, reconfigurable here in the instrument cluster, with an augmented reality camera. There's nothing clear or quite like it in the industry. All the wood is pretty, you get nice materials, but the rest of the truck has some down market parts to it. There's adjustable side bolstering, not quite as many adjustments as the Jeep, but it does have a lot of massaging. And isn't that a relief? There was an option called relief. The leftmost screen is particularly useful. You got your trip. You can select different modes for the main instrument panel, and adjust the head-up display. Really nice, really easy. What I also like about this nav, not only is it easy to use and swipe here, I can go down to the rotary dial, and now the interface suddenly changes. So it makes it more easy to use this. But then when I move my hand over here, oof, look at that. It's magic. As nice as the Grand Wagoneer's instrument cluster is, the Escalade's makes it look like a cartoon. Just this view alone in standard view looks so much crisper and cleaner. You can get full screen maps. And if that's not enough, use the augmented reality camera, so when you have the navigation running, it'll show arrows and street names right on the screen. This is a very high-res camera. And on top of that, you got night vision. That's also an option on the Jeep, but it shows up better here. At first, this dash might seem like a letdown next to the Escalade. After all, it doesn't have this really beautiful curved display here, but there's actually 4 screens. This is not just another cover. It's another screen for the climate, the massage, the rear climate, and guess what else it does? Cell phone holder, more USB ports, power outlet, HDMI. Love that. This passenger screen is like its own separate media outlet. You can control your own audio and video not using the main screen, has your own Bluetooth streaming, HDMI inputs, plus you can send navigations to the driver, you can access the vehicle cameras. And best of all, for distraction purposes, the driver can't really see this. It's heavily tinted. If you like loud stereos, you'll like the 24-speaker Macintosh stereo in the Grand Wagoneer. It has 1,375 watts, surround sound mode, and this little gimmicky but fun analog decibel meter. There's 5 massage programs and 3 different settings, including rock climb. The Grand Wagoneer has fit and finish unlike any other Jeep product, and it should for this price. But look around, the way the metal curves, the way it's embossed that says Grand Wagoneer below this black polished dash, which actually has screens, all the little treats and the way things are finished in here. It's definitely above the Cadillac. Sitting back in the Escalade feels just like in the Grand Wagoneer. It's equal amounts of legroom and headroom, all of that, but there's no center console. I don't even have 4-zone climate, I got 3-zone, not cooled seats, only heated. This one does have rear seat entertainment. You can watch Hulu, hook up your HDMI, stream, all that good stuff. That's also an option in the Grand Wagoneer. There's no sunshades, so there's a few things, actually several things, that the Escalade is missing that is on that Grand Wagoneer. The Grand and Grand Wagoneer affords you this center console with your own screen for heated and cooled seats and the temperature on either separate zone. That's nice. There's tons of room in here, of course, plenty of headroom. This is manual and the seats are manual and they don't massage, so there should be a few more powered accessories going on back here. The Grand Wagoneer L is $107,225 with the towing package and extra charge paint. The Escalade is $114,915 with the night vision and the retractable power steps. Any way you look at it, you're spending more than 100 grand or close to 2 grand every month. The Jeep has 5 years of maintenance included. Now the only direct competitors with these vehicles are the Lincoln Navigator, and if you want to save 20 grand, maybe the regular Wagoneer L, the Chevy Suburban High Country, and the GMC Yukon XL Denali. That's it. The Escalade is an excellent choice. It's got the best hands-free driving system of any vehicle on the market, and the screens and the technology are just superb. But the Jeep Grand Wagoneer, right out of the box, it's a better drive. It drives better in terms of the engine, the handling, and all the interior, the quality, the materials. It's so spot on, and it feels like a luxury vehicle where the Cadillac sometimes feels like a Chevy. And at these prices, we're talking well over $100,000 for each truck. All of that matters. So the Grand Wagoneer L is the winner, but what do you think? Because there's a lot of other competitors out there. There's a lot of new SUVs, crossovers that we're going to test. So let us know what you want. Type in the comments, go to CarGurus.com, subscribe, because we'll see you next time.